And content marketing strategy is really big these days. And content marketing strategy goes hand in hand with social media, because social media is how you best share your content with the world. So what we wanted to do this time was talk about video and how video can help you to be an effective part of your social media content marketing strategy. So we have assembled a panel of some of Waterloo Region's top experts in video. It's a deep pool though, so we weren't able to invite everybody we might have liked to, but we did invite a good cross-section of different size companies, different backgrounds, different clientele bases, and so they will all have something to share with you about how to make videos effective so that when you share them on social media, people will want to pass them forward, people will want to comment on them, people will want to interact with them, and it will help you to build the relationships that are key to using social media. So I will quickly introduce the panel, and then each of them will come up and make a short presentation, somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. We have given them the option of showing a short video clip to demonstrate whichever key learning they are wanting to share with you today. And then once they are all done, then we'll move into questions and answers. And we should have at least half an hour where we can handle all of your questions and give the panel a chance to discuss them. Okay, so our panel is Duncan Finnigan is from the Multicultural Cinema Club, which is found directly across the street on top of the Queen's Common Cafe. We have Peter Shannon from Memory Tree. Nelson Dunk. I always get Nelson Dunk and Duncan Finnigan mixed up. Which one has the first name, which has the last name? Anyway, Nelson Dunk from Skylight Productions. And then we have videographer extraordinaire, Dwight Storring, who's all specialist in digital storytelling. And we have Darnell from Huckleberry Productions. Now, did we figure out who's going to go first? Okay.
Morning. Excuse me. I'm Scottish, so if you can't understand me, I'm not going to apologise. I work across the road in the Multicultural Cinema Club. I'm a filmmaker. I've made 6 feature films. I've made many short films. And one of the things I'm just going to throw to you guys today is when you're thinking about content, I want to say I'm not a social media expert in any way at all. I'm a filmmaker, make videos. If you think about content, think about your opening shot of your project, right? Think about what that impact that has on an audience, even if it's 10 seconds. Does anyone have a cat? No? Okay. Dog?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm really like to watch my short movie. We had a young chap came to us in November. He wanted to do some acting. He told us that no one was going to give him a job. So he needed a showreel, so we created a showreel for him, and this is the showreel. So if we could play that video, and thank you very much, guys.
Sorry.
Don't hold your breath.
Just trying to understand.
Trying to understand. Well, that's beautiful. Could you try it in the real world?
Just come back home.
What home? What home? Are you kidding? Please tell me you're joking.
Sorry.
I live with this every day of my whole life, thanks to you.
Thank you for watching.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Peter Shannon. I'm the president and producer at Memory Tree Productions. We've been in business for 17 years in Kitchener-Waterloo, producing stories for corporations, educational institutions, and government. Got a fair amount of experience in social media video, and I'd like to share with you some stories. I do have a video that I'd like to share with you, but before we play the first piece, I've got two actually. Before we play the first piece, I just want to explain a little bit about where it came about. This particular video, got a very noisy microphone here. This particular video was created for Memory Tree. It's a social media promotional video for us. Hello? Can you hear me? Okay, well that's a little bit better. Yeah, this particular social media video that we created was a part of a series. And this series, this is the first that we played for, that we had created. It was meant, we're going to get this right. It was meant to be a piece that really did a soft promotion for Memory Tree. So it wasn't supposed to be an in-your-face piece that talked about, you know, the fantastic video productions that Memory Tree's created over the years, and talked about the great clients that we've had and how happy they are with us. It wasn't that kind of promotional piece. It was meant to create some conversation and create some interest about Memory Tree and get people curious about our social media campaign and get them to follow it. So It's not your typical promotional piece. We used humor in this one. We've used extremely serious content as well in some of the social media pieces that we've created for ourselves. But in this case, I think the humor works well, and we also designed it so that it would play on a special occasion. In this case, Valentine's Day. So I'm not going to say more. I'll let the video play and we'll talk about the results.
Amanda, we've been together for a long time now, and I just want everyone to know how infatuated I am with you. You're the reason I enthusiastically just go to bed every day. Other women are nothing compared to you. Till death do us part is what I desire. I hate the thought of not being with you. I love you. I really love you. Will you marry me? How was that? She's gonna love it. Amanda, we've been together for a long time now. And I just want everyone to know how fat you are.
Leave to the pros. How can we help you find your
So, in that case, that particular video, we launched it the day before Valentine's Day. We had over 1,000 hits in about 30 minutes. Humor really works well. And in this case, you keeping your message short. That's another key piece of advice that I think I would give to you when creating any social media video. Very short. 90 seconds, I think, is about the maximum that anybody's going to watch a video online. If you've got a dedicated audience, you can certainly get over 90 seconds, but I don't recommend anything over 90. In fact, shorter the better. We've created about 4 social media videos for ourselves, that one being the longest one. And I think that when you look at the length of time that the videos run versus the number of hits that we have, there's a definite correlation between length of time and hits. So I think there was, between YouTube, Vimeo, and our Facebook site, we received somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,500 hits within a 48-hour period for that particular video. So, was it a success? It was a success because we got people talking about Memory Tree and sharing the video. Did we get any sales from that particular piece? I don't think so. Now, there's no direct correlation between that video that we created and any rush and super increase in sales, but for me, that's not the point. It wasn't really generated to create sales, although that doesn't hurt. In this case, it was just to get people interested in our social media site. And please, I encourage you to go to our Facebook page and like us, and you can follow more of the social media videos that we're creating.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
You mentioned 3 sources, so Facebook, Darnell, and YouTube.
Right.
Since they originally contacted you through Facebook, did you notice that then, because it was easier, more people stayed with Facebook? Or did some go to Vimeo because of the quality?
Well, the question was, are people following us on Facebook? Because it's easier to follow us on Facebook than it is for Vimeo or YouTube. Facebook, we actually have a direct link to our Vimeo site. So we're using Vimeo primarily over YouTube, although I like both, and we do post videos on both. I like Vimeo because it's a higher quality than what YouTube offers. YouTube is certainly universal, and it's extremely popular, so you can't really ignore either. I think you sort of have to put your videos on those two main sites to get as much traction as you can. But Facebook, really, you're setting a link to YouTube or Vimeo within Facebook. So it really uses both. I'm going to give you guys a statistic that I think is really important. I don't care whether you're small retail or a large institution. This statistic has changed the way people are looking at video online. And the stat is that if you have video on your home page, you're 53 times more likely to show up in a Google search. That stat alone means that we are going to be very busy people in the next year, 2, 3, 10. Video production is extremely important, I think, to anybody that's creating a website or that wants to have traction within their social media. I think that video is extremely important for that. 90% of video content on the web is video. I don't know how much of that is porn, but we won't go there. You know, you've got, video content is extremely important, and without it, I think that your message is going to be diluted. I think that for the most part, most people now are getting their information through social. A lot of people are getting their information through social media. I think that the statistics are quite strong in terms of younger people under 35. I'm forgetting the statistic right now. I can look it up later if you want to come and ask me. But the stats are incredible, and how quickly social media video is growing within Canada. The Canadians are embracing social media video and video in general online far quicker than any other country in the world. Canadians consume, it's about 65% higher than any other country, including the United States. So Canadians are hooked in, they're online, and they're using it. I've got another video piece that I'd like to show you before I play that. This one was for Ovarian Cancer Canada. We were doing a national campaign for them. This is an animated piece. They came to me, I would say, about 2 weeks before we produced this video and said that they just lost their main sponsor. They needed to generate approximately $250,000 in income, or they were going to lose their block, which is their main source of revenue for that particular nonprofit. It was devastating for them to lose that sponsor so soon before their walk, and they weren't really sure what they were going to do. So we went in and we talked to them about what their needs were and what ovarian cancer was and what the messages that they needed to communicate. And we created this piece. I think if I was to give one more piece of advice, no matter what level of production you're trying to create, it's know your audience. I think you need to generate a message that has strong content that isn't wasting people's time. That first piece that I showed you, there's certainly not a lot of content in there other than the fact that it was fun to watch. But I don't think it was a waste of people's time. I think people were entertained. So you need to have some kind of a goal. You need to be able to achieve that goal. And I think with strong writing, that will take it a long way. I think this piece definitely has a really strong script, although there is no narration in it. That I'll play. So that, thank you. That particular piece was very successful for them. They were able to raise about $45,000 in less than 10 days, which didn't certainly replace the corporate sponsor that they lost. But they were also able to use that video to find another corporate sponsor, which they did, and they replaced the entire amount that they had lost, plus they had the extra money. So in terms of a return on investment for them, it was certainly worth it. They had an incredible social media network that they were able to tap into, and I believe that video was sent to about 45,000 people. So the $10 donation rate, when you look at how much money they raised, I think it sure did reach people, and I don't know how many actually donated. I don't know the statistics there, but it worked. I think I want to bring about another point, and please cut me off if I'm taking up too much time. Okay, last point. So this particular point, I think is really important too. Google holds a lot of power, and I don't have to talk to you guys about that. Google is pretty important. The statistic that I gave you earlier, about 53 times more likely to be found in a Google search if you have video. The other statistic that I want to talk to you about, or the other information that I want to talk to you about, is that Google is ranking through YouTube. And by the way, Google owns YouTube. So YouTube is ranking their videos in a different way than they used to. They're counting a hit on YouTube only when a certain percentage of that video has been watched. So it goes back to my first point about keeping your videos short. If you want hits to show up on your website, keep them short. But the other thing that's interesting about that, I think, and what it says to me, is that quality video is extremely important. You don't want to just put anything on your website. You want to make sure that the quality of that piece is good, because if it is, people are going to watch beyond the 5 seconds that most people watch video for. And I'm not kidding, 5 seconds. The average person has clicked somewhere else after 5 seconds if they're not sure it's what they want to watch. So you don't have much time to make an impact. You better get their attention quickly, and in my opinion, it needs to be a quality piece to do your brand and your hard work and your effort proud, and in order to reach that audience you're trying to reach. So thanks for your time.
Sorry, Duncan. Well, I'll introduce myself again. My name is Nelson Dunk with Skylight Productions, and I'm honored to be a part of this panel, actually, with some incredible people that I have worked with, some of whom I haven't worked with, but they're great people. And I want to make sure that we kind of cover a few different bases. I want to make sure that we're not all talking about the same thing. So I switched gears a little bit. The bulk of what Skylight does is those marketing videos, or those website videos, explainers, things like that you'll put on your website or show during a conference or send to a client or something like that. But there's a kind of a niche that's emerging, I think, with entrepreneurs and small business owners, and that's to do, as James was talking about, content marketing. And that's beyond just kind of selling yourself. So the kind of my first point in terms of your using video in terms of social media is plan your strategy. And that's kind of a generic thing to say. Everyone knows they have to strategize. What does that mean? It really means think about what you want to accomplish. So if you're going to call up a video production company or start to try and do things yourself or whatever you're going to do, think about what it is that you want to accomplish. In some cases, it might be you really want to show the level of professionalism of your business. You really want to show off some client testimonials. You really want to show a product or maybe do a new product launch. In some cases, maybe you want to be established as an expert or a thought leader in your particular industry. Maybe you want to just be able to generate some new leads through, having tutorials or things like that online. In terms of online video, and again, we're skewing towards using it with social media, there are so many options as to what you can do. So, like I say, the first thing is to strategize and plan your intent. What's the goal? You know, when we work with clients, we don't just kind of pull out the video camera and start going. We take a lot of time to understand our clients, to understand what they want to accomplish, who their market is, because that definitely changes what it is that you do. You know, I have read articles and heard things, people say that just throwing video up is a good idea and get as much content out there as possible. And I don't tend to agree with that, along with Peter. I think that quality is definitely important. But the other thing that's important is knowing what your audience wants. So I brought an example of this, and this is definitely not the flashiest video that we've ever made. But it serves to show some great strategy of one of our clients. And I'm going to talk over it because like I say, it's not the flashiest video. But basically, we had a client that they wanted to be established as experts in their field. It's an insurance company. And they wanted to offer additional content, not only to their clients, but just to people in general. So we worked on a series of 12 videos. You go ahead and run that whenever you want, Nate. And basically, their idea was, let's create some videos so that people can search, as an example, an insurance company, what is the deductible? So as Peter said, Google and YouTube are huge in terms of searchability. So if someone goes into YouTube and Googles, what is a deductible, my client's video pops up, right? It's branded, it's professionally produced, it's well done, it's short, it answers their question, and they have 12 of those, all on various insurance questions. So again, for this company, not the flashiest video in the world, at the same time, in terms of their strategy, they are very, very, very searchable. No one has to go in and Google their company name. All they have to do is wonder what a deductible is, and their company pops up to the top of the list. So in terms of video SEO, very, very powerful. So like I say, strategy, and again, they have 12 of these, so they have 12 different opportunities, not just one with a marketing video. They have 12 opportunities for people to find their business. Does that sort of make sense to people? So I'm not downplaying the idea of making a marketing video, a video for your website. I'm just saying, give it some thought, plan a strategy, find out what your intent is. And part of that intent as well, as Peter said, is where is it hosted? How are you going to get this video out to people? Again, through the lens of social media. So I assume that most people in here are building an audience, whether it's through Facebook or Twitter or Pinterest or whatever it is, or that's the goal. So where is your video being hosted? And all of the different video hosting sites have different strengths and weaknesses. I don't want to get totally into that here because it can get a little bit drawn out. But give some thought to what you want to accomplish. How long are your videos going to be? Are you going to throw up something that's like a 20-minute seminar that you did? Probably not the greatest idea, as Peter mentioned. Shorter is definitely better. But if that's the case, then YouTube won't work for you. It only has a 10-minute limit. Do you have a great Facebook following already? Because there's some very huge advantages. If you already have a big Facebook following, there's advantages to hosting your video on Facebook. A lot of people don't realize that you can actually host your video through Facebook itself. That's a niche thing, but there's definitely a market for that. Are you trying to reach an overseas market? Because overseas, YouTube isn't as big as it is in North America. There's other things like Daily Motion that are really big overseas in Europe. So again, give some thought to what are you trying to accomplish? Who is your audience? Where are they? Where are they searching? If I'm going to create a short film as an example, odds are I'm going to put it on Vimeo. It's a higher quality. That tends to be more of that kind of community, more of a creative community. And they do have longer run times as well that they allow. So again, you got to give a little bit of thought to what is your strategy? Where is the video going to go? And the other thought that you have to give to your strategy is, how are you going to get your video seen? So again, this comes back to searchability. And a huge thing is definitely going to be your ability to create something that people want to share. Again, the lens of social media. Social media is all about sharing. It's not just about pushing content out there, it's about conversations, it's about people passing things back and forth. So again, as Peter said, they had great traction with their awesome video because they created something that had an element of virality to it. It was funny, people were going to be able to like it on Facebook, they're going to be able to say on Twitter, hey, check out this awesome video. That's a good thing for a business. That's a great thing for a business. If you can have people that are promoting your video, it's one thing for you to put it on Facebook or Twitter and say, hey, check out our awesome video. It's another thing for a friend to say, hey, look at this awesome video I just saw. You're going to get a lot more traction out of that, out of other people being your brand ambassadors, than you trying to just push things out yourself. So again, that's leveraging the following that you already have, but it's also creating content that people are going to want to pass around. So that can be humorous content. stuff that people think, oh, this is a funny video, I'm going to pass this along. It can be just really good, useful content. As I say, the client that we had, they just wanted to create useful content for people and drive people to their website. Which again is another great strategy. What are people looking for? What are your clients wanting? And as well, kind of giving some thought to what other places you can post your video. So throwing something up on YouTube and hoping for the best isn't really the greatest strategy. You have to give a little bit of thought to your video SEO. And again, that's something that our company works very, very closely with our clients to do. We don't believe in producing something, handing it to you and saying, you know, best of luck, hope people watch it. You know, we've put our blood, sweat, and tears into creating something awesome for you. We want people to watch it as well. So video marketing strategy is kind of the other side to that. And I believe that's something that video production companies are moving to help their clients do, is not only create the video, but have it be seen by people. So if you decide you're going to host your video on YouTube, give some thought and strategy to your title, to your keywords, to your description. These are incredibly important things because not a lot of people realize Google doesn't know what's in your video. So if people are searching for your video, it doesn't matter what the content is, Google has no idea. All Google knows is the text that comes below it. So some people will, as a strategy, take the entire transcript of their video, put it in that description, because all of that text is searchable. If anybody searches anything based on what you have said, there it is right in that video. So again, my kind of summary on this is strategize, give a little bit of thought to what you want to create, who your audience is, how you're going to get it out to them, and how you're going to make it as searchable and shareable as possible. Thank you very much.
So I won't make Duncan move yet again. I can go around this way. I think I have a distinct disadvantage here with my colleagues on the panel. I think I've probably been in media production longer than many of them have been alive. But I started my career in the newspaper business. You remember those pieces of paper you used to get and read. And I moved from writing to photojournalism and then into the online world. And then finally I seem to have come a bit full circle, but now I'm working a great deal in video. So the thing for me is, at my heart, is not video, is not in my heart. What is in my heart is storytelling. So essentially, I'm a storyteller. And so the one message that I did want to bring to you today is just simply think slow. I don't think we should, I'm not suggesting that you disregard social media. I think social media is a wonderful thing, but remember that it is going past you at the speed of a click. So, you have to get that traction as it goes by you. So think slow, think about the story. And I think that when you sort of slow down and think about your job and what your organization is trying to do, you're going to find a great deal more meaning and depth in your work. And so what I do, mostly in my work, is I do digital storytelling, personal storytelling. So I seek to help others tell their personal story. And I'm going to show you an example of that in just a moment. But I think the thing to remember with that personal story is that it's the original slow media. It is intimate, it gives great insight, and it's about building community. And more than anything else, the personal story is a gift, and it's a gift to the world, but it's also a gift to you. So I'd like to show the video now, but before we do start it, I want to let you know that there's some very powerful content here. So be prepared to hear some things that may upset you, but I think it's well worth looking at.
The signs of abuse are threats of destruction. Signs of abuse. Signs of abuse. Feeling. These are the signs of abuse. My name's Chloe, and I'm 29. The branches remind me of his hands. The hands are holding down the leaves and trying to control them. I can picture what he used to do to my dog. when he was angry, he would wrap his hands around his neck and hold him down. Sparky carries this with him. He doesn't like men and barks at them, and he treads cautiously around them. It reminds me of being guilted into having sex with him when I didn't want to. We both carry this with us. This reminds me of being given unkept promises that he would change. There are vines wrapping themselves around the branch, suffocating it. There are brown, dying, ugly vines, but also new growth, representing change and new beginnings. But it continues to wrap itself tightly around the branch. I'm reminded of being back in that abusive relationship, where I put faith in my ex-husband to change, after he promised to try. I was so hopeful. It was devastating when he went back to his old ways. This reminds me of being isolated and afraid. I was told when I could and I couldn't go out, who I could see, how I should act. The chain elicits fear of violent outbursts and reminds me of how I conformed to who he wanted me to be and did what he wanted me to do in order to keep him happy and avoid making him angry at all costs. I had given up who I was in order to keep his anger in check and keep myself and everyone I love safe. This made me feel empowered. It symbolizes my journey. Being a woman that was broken, with lots of emotional scars, feeling dirty and not worthy of love, to becoming a woman who escaped domestic violence and is able to recognize the signs of abuse. Now I have the courage to say, do not touch me.
These are the signs of abuse. Violent outbursts, isolation from family and friends, feelings of worthlessness,
physical assault, fear for self or children, threats of violence or harm, threats of destruction of property or pets.
Makes you feel guilty or worthless, insults, put-downs, or name-calling, jealousy or accusations of cheating, unkept promises to change, control of all the money, forced sexual acts.
Essentially, that's a process where you gather people together, you select a topic you want to explore, and then you find a location, and the participants go into the field and start taking photographs around the topic, and then when they come back, we get together and we develop a story together. It's a co-creation process in a storytelling circle, and then we record it and put it into a video format. So as you can see, it's not nearly the kind of thing that these folks are doing here. I do that kind of work, but to me, this is a place where my heart is. As I say, this is about community and building community in both a geographical sense and also in a metaphorical sense. So I will leave that with you today. Think slow.
We had pretty little organization when it came to these presentations. We were asked to talk a little bit about video and how to make a great video, which obviously is why I'm here. And nobody talked about the same thing. So I kind of took it from a different tact, being a little bit of maybe a nerd. So I let my nerd shine free today. So Huckleberry Film Studios, that's us. I'm Darnell, and thanks for coming out and being interested in a topic that's so near and dear to my heart. We're also a corporate video production firm, so I've sort of tailored this presentation for you. I'm assuming you guys are a business audience, and maybe you want to know how to take video and make it more powerful within the context of your business goals and needs, and with what you're already doing or trying to do in content marketing. So my first premise is that the best stories are the ones you live. This obviously comes from a different place than what we just saw as a video from Dwight or what Duncan showed us earlier. But if you're a company, I would suggest to you that the best stories are literally the things that you live and die by, the things that matter. They're your why. What's so awesome about your brand, your company, your product? What does that look like? Why do you do what you do? And that's where I would first suggest to all of our clients and partners that they look. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how you build great video. Okay, so these guys have already talked a little bit about the importance of understanding your goals and your objectives, defining your vision, and having a really clear idea of what it is that you want to communicate to your audience. Importantly, we don't just talk to our clients about what they want to achieve. Very often a business client will talk to us and say, I want to talk all about my features and benefits. Features and benefits are how a business thinks about its products and its brand, but your clients think about things from a different perspective. So I think it's important to make a presentation that works. I'm going to skip that in the interest of time. Can you guys hear me? Okay. So this is basically, if you guys are in content marketing, then you know that you've got to match your content to your market. So it's a simple concept. So this really talks about the different stages of buying. If you're looking at using video in your marketing strategy and you would like to communicate effectively, then you know that when somebody's looking at making a purchase and they're maybe on your website to evaluate if you are indeed a brand or a vendor that they can work with and trust, they're going to go through certain buying stages. So they're going to start with general education, perhaps. Do I need a marketing automation system? Is this even a topic that resonates for me, for example? They're maybe going to look at a business case that they need to develop within their organization for, I do think we need a marketing automation system. And this means that, this is our business case analysis for how much we should spend, what kind of ROI we'll get, etc. And they'll move forward from that into individual implementation scenarios. How will we use the system within our context, within our company? And then they'll shortlist it and they'll go to final decisions. So this is kind of basic content marketing stuff, but you'll notice that it's a linear process, generally. Someone might come to your website the first time and already have the general education about what kind of product or service you offer, but very often they won't. But you have to basically tailor your content, not just your video. Video is a unit of content, fundamentally. But you have to actually speak in the language of your prospects. So your goals are to sell, your prospects' goals are to investigate, validate, evaluate. So the first thing is to understand your customer. So within that, video has a place. It's not the be-all and end-all. There isn't one kind of video, there are many kinds of video. And at different stages of the buying cycle, and you'll see just under the bottom here, I've kind of re-implemented them. Different formats are more suitable. So video is the green bar, and you'll notice that at general education time, and again at implementation scenarios, people prefer to watch a video, right? I'm not talking about a viral, jokey video. I'm talking about a business-oriented video that has a value proposition that you're trying to communicate to your customers. So understanding when podcasts, audio, white papers, text, when that's best and when video is best is helpful, because you're not going to spend your money on the wrong type of messaging at the wrong time. Okay, so that's the content marketing spiel. I've got more slides on that if you guys are interested, but I'm assuming I'm supposed to kind of talk about the story. So I'm going to give you a little overview of how you can think about what kind of stories you want to tell when you actually have a story to tell, and kind of the intersection of story and video. So I have an undergrad in English literature, so this might sound familiar to some people in the room. So there are 4 rhetorical modes. There are 4 ways that we talk and communicate to each other. So again, podcasts, videos, white papers, these are content units when you talk about them in the context of the web. But they really have a few different forms and voices. So you can have an expository type of communication, where you're going to explain things. You can have argumentation, where you're actually going to try to persuade your audience of something. You can have description, where you're going to essentially describe maybe your product or maybe your service, maybe the problem that your client has, etc. And you have narration. So people talk about video and story like they're synonymous, but they're not. If you were to look at these categories and say, under exposition or explaining, you can think of certain types of videos that fit that category very well, right? So an explainer video. So ovarian cancer, we saw an example of an explainer video. It takes some facts, it lets you know how you're supposed to care about them, it gives you the general context of the scene, and it moves you forward, right? Then there's argumentation. So I can make a video that says why you should hire Huckleberry Film Studios, and I could play that for you, and hopefully you would be persuaded that you should absolutely hire us and work with us as partners. We're great. My video would be better than that argument as well. There's description, and this is, you want to describe something, so you've got a topic like, the city of Stratford, and we want to compel outside people to come and bring their economic money and their businesses and development to the city instead of another city. So that's part description, and maybe it's a little bit of argumentation as well because you're trying to persuade. So those are a few different kinds of categories based on the rhetorical modes that are really common, and I would argue most videos fall into these categories. They don't fall into story whatsoever. So I'm going to just talk to you a little bit about story and how you can think about story if you actually find yourself in a category where you want to create and share a story with your audience. So the first thing I would say is that story, in the context of business story, you need to be thinking about it as a cross between business, customer, marketing, and then mode. So again, going back to, there's many different ways to sort of skin a cat. Video is not the only way you can tell a story. And I would also argue that you don't need to have a 90-second video, whether it's funny or not, if you're matching your message to your audience and their needs. So many of the videos that we do have to do with communicating a large idea or a large value proposition or a number of value propositions. And the right length of time for that video is the length of time that your audience cares to have this information conveyed to them. So I would argue that a certain kind of video can be 10 minutes long, and your audience is going to soak up every bit of it because they're trying to make a critical decision, and they're looking at your video as a tool to enable them to do that. So I wouldn't take anything as an absolute when it comes to communication in video mode. It's really the right length of time for the audience and what their needs are. It's not what we think they need. And there's also a different paradigm for whether you're sharing a viral video on YouTube or whether you're trying to share your company's story and your brand and what you care about and what you live by on your own website. So when we talk about the elements of story, there's another major differentiator. It's funny how many video companies, ourselves included, talk about story. But there's a funny little nuance here that story, as we think about it, is perhaps not how those English profs might have taught one of us, or how they think about it. So there's a big difference between a tale and a story. So this was kind of a wake-up call for me. I had this little book that my grandma gifted me from 1922 from the Shaw School of Storytelling. And it made this really kind of click kind of moment for me where I understood that the difference between a tale and a story is a tale is when you say, yeah, this happened to me, and then this happened to me, and then we went over here, and then this thing happened, action, action, action. Whereas a story actually has a plot. So somebody's trying to get somewhere, and then it's problematized, and then there's a resolution. So a lot of what you see in advertising are stories. They may be cut down to 30 seconds. They may be just the thinnest slice of a story. But they try to give you a story. And when you talk about story, and you really are building a story, now you have a very powerful palette to build from. Because you not only take from all of prose and poetry, what that has to offer, you take from music, and you take from the full visual arts. So along with some of the ideas of a plot, where you actually have some kind of challenge, struggle, and resolution, you now have tools at your disposal to really create an emotional story that can resonate for your audience. So you can have something like, so these are some of the major elements. So you can have a character. And we all know about characters. We learned this in high school, about protagonists and antagonists and heroes and villains and things like this. You can have a narrator. Right? So some of the films we heard today had narrators, and there's different types of narration. I've been watching a show lately on Netflix called House of Cards. Has anybody seen House of Cards? Kevin Spacey? It's really cool because that show opens with a character-based narrator, which is really uncommon, and it's a very rich way to reach your audience. So Kevin Spacey comes on, it's a political show, and you think that you're looking at a character within a scene with a point of view. The camera always has a point of view. The narrator always has a point of view, whether there's a verbal spoken narration or not. But then Kevin Spacey will break that mode, and he'll look directly to the camera. And while he's telling his audience in the show one thing, he'll look to you and give you the aside that's like, I don't believe what I'm saying at all. This is just crap to convince them to vote for me, or whatever. So you've got all these things to play with. You've got motifs. If you think about a motif in music, you can think about recurring elements. You can think about a leitmotif. When you start looking at things like the fabula or the world that you're creating, once upon a time, you know that in a fabula that starts with once upon a time, you might be able to see a unicorn or a princess. But if the fabula, the world that you create for your audience, starts with, T-minus 2 minutes to launch, you're not going to see princesses and unicorns. You're going to see spaceship. You're probably going to be involved in a science fiction world. So you get to decide all these things. You have all these little tools to play with. Perspective, voice, tone, setting, plot. And then you mix those in with all the different layers. So it's sort of a funny point where you say, do you use a professional film studio to help you create this kind of thing? I would say when you get into storytelling like this, it's maybe not a bad idea. I think that there's so much power in story that this is really one of the things that you see at the higher ends of production. This is where, instead of just creating an explainer video or viral videos, perhaps you see, the Office dub or the whole Office sings a song or things like this. Now you're really talking about taking the fundamental elements of human pathos and communication and using those to work with your brand to communicate its story. And at this point, when you're mixing literature, music, and visual arts, it's infinite possibility and power. We all go home and we watch these shows, we put on our music, and we get involved in these worlds. And they take us over just for 30 seconds, or for 5 minutes, or for however long you're invested in that story. But we do get invested in story, and we do get compelled by it. So, sorry, I'm wrapping up. I'm sure this is the final stages. So, one of the things that you'll find is that when you start thinking about video, you tend to start in those simpler forms of mode. So you tend to think about explaining something, you tend to think about persuading somebody, maybe making a pitch, or describing your set of services. And as you go down the road into sort of the higher value propositions of communications, you tend to find that stories get created by agencies. Stories are what you find on TV. Stories are what draw you in. Stories are what have the real power if you can craft the right story to sort of bring your brand forward, bring your message forward, your product, your service, who you are, and those stories compel us. So this little quote is actually from a great book I'm just going to give you a reference to. I believe it's Peter Gruber, and it's called Tell to Win. So it's a fairly new book on the scene for how to tell stories, and I buy them all. So I thought this was a really good insight, and if you want a short course on how to tell a story and have your target audience really resonate with what your brand proposition and promise is, you can hardly do better than having a hero. So your hero, if you think about TV commercials, it's a really good example. Your hero can be the bounty, what is it called, a paper towel, bounty paper towel that saves the day. It can be the oven mitt, it can be a person, it can be the dad who knows how to do this thing, or the mom who saves the day over here. But when you build a character into the story, you give point of view. So now we get to integrate with your story and your messaging from a point of view. And that point of view of the hero becomes a surrogate to us as an audience. So that surrogate tells us how to feel about the product and service. It tells us how we can benefit and use the product and service. And it just gives us a place to relate to and from. So this is sort of a major sort of hint as to if you're going home tonight and you want to watch some commercials. You can ask yourself, who's the hero in this commercial? Is it a person, place, product, or brand? But the power of the story is that when you unite those things within that story framework, our minds just want to open up that little bit and get into that world of story. And I think fundamentally we're in a different place as human beings when we do hear a story. I think we're more open. I think that our logical part of the brain gets pushed down a little bit, and our more emotional part of the brain opens up, and we engage in a little bit more of an open way. So I think that's where some of the secret power of advertising and brand storytelling comes from. Yes, so the audience will hear and feel the call of action that your hero portrayed. And this is my summary. So you've got to start with your clients or with yourself and find out what is true for you. You've got to understand that problem and the opportunity that you're trying to solve as a business, but the opportunity that your client or your target market has to resonate and find their way to your brand, product, or service. You've got to figure out what's the right mode of telling and when that's video and when it isn't. And then you've got to take your key facts and value propositions and put them into the kind of story framework that has the emotional context that can actually reach your audience. And then it's playtime. So no one here today, to my surprise, talked about, the art of coloring or, all the different nuances of cinematography, or lighting, or all of just those sort of fine technical points. But I think it's such a compelling form, and I think that's probably what's attracted everyone here to the forum, is that it's just so rich in possibility. So I think I'll leave it there, but thank you for your time. I hope you found that kind of helpful.
So that's just the formal presentations by our panel. Now we're going to throw things over to you to ask questions. We have, I think, at least 20 minutes, if not more, to answer your questions and have some discussion between the panel. Before I do that, I'll give you a second to think about what your question might be. I think one of the things that we strongly heard today is the importance of storytelling. And I think even just from the diversity of samples and speakers and so forth, we also see that there are some best practices, but it also depends upon what you're trying to do. And I think one thing that's really important is that you try to stand out from the crowd. If your video is just like everybody else's video, especially everybody else who's doing what you're doing, you're just going to blend in and you're less likely to capture that special kind of attention that you might be trying to seek. And I'd just like to also add that the Photo Voice project that Dwight shared is actually just a short clip from a much longer project. It's about 9 minutes long and features 4 women who we weren't seeking women who had had any experience with domestic violence or of any kind. We just wanted to have young women learn about the signs of abuse and share them. And so there's much more to that video if you're interested at wcswr.org/charming. And there is as well some other videos on that page that Duncan has done as well that are along that same kind of theme if you're interested. So with that, do we have a question for the panel? Okay, and I'll bring. Can you try to use that one? Okay.